So, what if I told you there's a secret playbook? A set of rules that these massive, giant companies have used to not just sell you something, but to actually shape the way you live, the way you listen, even the way you play. Well, today, we're going to open that playbook. Okay, let's just think about this for a second. You've got a Japanese electronics company on one side and an American soda giant on the other. On the surface, they have absolutely nothing in common, right? But the way they both climb to the top of the world, well, that's where the story gets really interesting. That's the secret. They were both running plays from the exact same playbook. It wasn't written down, of course, but when you look at their histories, the pattern is crystal clear. So we've broken it down, and now we're going to walk through the rules one by one. All right, rule number one. This one is simple, but it's totally revolutionary. Don't just play the game, you have to change the game itself. If you want to get your foot in the door, you have to do something so wildly different that the big players don't even see you as a threat until it's way too late. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You've got two totally different ways to do it. First, look at Sony. Back in the 50s, they went all in on this brand new thing called the transistor. Nobody trusted it, but Sony saw the future, and a result, the world's first pocket radio. All of a sudden, music wasn't stuck in your living room anymore. It was portable. It was a game changer. Then you've got Pepsi. They couldn't beat Coke on history or tradition, so they just changed the battlefield. They created the Pepsi Challenge and made the fight all about one thing, taste. It was an absolutely brilliant move. So, you've kicked the door down. You're in. Now what? Well, rule number two is the real masterstroke. This is where you stop selling a product and you start shaping culture. You have to make your brand a part of who people are. I mean, really think about it for a second. Before Sony's next big invention, listening to music was almost always a public thing. You know, you'd gather around the radio with your family, or you'd put a record on at a party. It was something you did together. And then the Walkman shows up, and everything changed. Suddenly, you could just pop on some headphones and create your own private world of sound. Your walk to school, your bus ride, your entire life suddenly had its own personal soundtrack. And the songs you picked weren't just tunes. They were a statement about who you were. This quote just nails it. The biggest cultural shifts, the real game changers, they don't come from focus groups. They don't come from asking people what they want. They come from inventing something people couldn't even imagine and then showing them that they absolutely cannot live without it. And believe it or not, the Cola Wars did the exact same thing, just with marketing instead of hardware. It stopped being about which drink tasted better. Pepsi positioned itself as the choice of the new generation. So ordering a Pepsi or a Coke, that became a declaration. It was about your age, your attitude, your identity, all in a fizzy drink. Okay, so you've disrupted market, you've woven yourself into the fabric of culture. Rule number three is about building an empire that actually lasts. And this is where our two giants, Sony and Pepsi, took very different but equally powerful paths to the top. Sony's plan was to go vertical. The logic is genius, really. If you make the device and you also make the stuff that plays on the device, you control the entire experience. So they built the PlayStation, then they bought the record labels like CBS, then they bought the movie studios like Columbia Pictures. Think about it. You're playing a Sony game, listening to a Sony artist on a Sony device. Total and complete control. PepsiCo, on the other hand, went horizontal. Instead of trying to own one experience from top to bottom, they wanted to own every occasion in your day. Feeling thirsty? Here's a Pepsi. Need a snack? Grab some Frito-Lay chips. Working out? You need a Gatorade. See what they did? They spread out, making sure that no matter what you were doing, chances are you were reaching for one of their products. But here's the thing. No empire, no matter how big, can last forever if it stands still. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important rule in the whole playbook. You have to adapt or you will disappear. Simple as that. The world changes, and the giants have to change right along with it. For Sony, this meant a huge shift in strategy. They lost some ground in the smartphone and TV wars, so their new approach became, well, a lot quieter. Their power today is often hiding in plain sight, right inside their biggest competitors' products. It's kind of mind-blowing when you see it laid out. You're holding your brand new iPhone, right? Well, that amazing camera sensor that takes incredible photos? That's Sony. The same thing is true for Samsung's best phones. They've pivoted to become the critical must-have supplier for their rivals. Add on their huge control over music publishing, their dominance in gaming with PlayStation, and their Hollywood movies, you realize their new playbook is to be the invisible, essential power behind everything. Now, the cola giants, they were facing a totally different problem. The whole world was getting more health conscious. Their pivot had to be just as massive. And this chart really tells the whole story. For a company like PepsiCo, traditional sugary soda isn't even the main event anymore. Look at that. The huge majority of their business now comes from snacks, bottled water, and all these better-for-you options. They adapted to what people actually want now. So there it is. Let's just quickly recap the playbook. Step 1, disrupt. Don't just play along, change the actual rules. Step 2, shape culture. Make your product part of someone's identity. Step 3, build an empire, either up and down or side to side. And finally, step 4, adapt to survive. You have to find a new way to be essential when the world moves on. That's the formula. These strategies literally defined what success looked like for the entire 20th century. But that was then. It really leaves us with a huge question. As technology and culture keep changing faster and faster, who are the new giants out there writing the next chapter of this playbook? Who's writing the rules for the 21st century? Now that's something to think about.